Welcome back to Engaging with Engage. This tutorial is designed to give you a basic understanding of our immersive editor tools. David will cover keyframes, simple trigger buttons, and basic animation in this video. Here is the finished example of what we are going to build during this tutorial. It's a short virtual tour in a helicopter.
Look out the window, that's the Statue of Liberty. She stands on Liberty Island in New York Harbor. It used to be a fort. You can still see the star-shaped fort under her. The statue was a gift from France. She was designed by Bartholdi. The frame was built by Gustave Eiffel.
Here we are in the editor and the Statue of Liberty. And what I want to build today is a flying tour of the statue. So we're going to use some of the most basic tools in the editor. We're going to use an IFX. We're going to use a trigger button. And then we're going to use the keyframing function. So let's start with the IFX. I'm going to search for helicopter. And in the library, we have a very nice Engage helicopter, which I'm going to place down here on the key. There we go. And I want to extend the helicopter so it's the full length of the sequence, so I'll just grab the handle and drag it out. There we go. Now what I want to make the helicopter do is fly up in the air and go towards the statue and then come back. Now this helicopter has seats inside it for the avatars, so when we play this piece of content, all you have to do is sit on one of the seats and you'll be able to go on the tour. So let's, we don't want it to fly away straight away, so let's move the timeline up to about a minute. And I'm going to set my first key. So now you can see, if we look at the timeline, there's a very faint line there, and that's a keyframe. It's telling you that there's a keyframe there. Now the first movement we want to do is we want it to move straight up in the air. Now of course you can just grab it. If you're in VR, you can just grab it and move it, or if you're in desktop as well, you can just use the move function. But that's not very accurate, and we want to try and get a bit more accurate so we have more control over where the helicopter is going. So I'm going to use the gizmo. Now the gizmo, you can click on things to select the different handles for the gizmo, and then you can change the mode to rotation or scaling to make things bigger and smaller, or translate for the movement. But there's another way you can do it as well. You can use the buttons, and I find this really convenient, especially in desktop mode. So if I press move and I keep pressing the same button, you can see it cycles through the axis, and I only want to move it in the up and down axis here at the moment. So you can see that one's highlighted at the moment, and you can use your scroll button on your mouse to move the object. And so there you go. Now the distances that we're going to be moving this object might be quite large, so we might want to move the speed up a bit, or the sensitivity, so that it'll go faster. So I'm going to press that a few times, and I'm going to change it to 2 times speed or 2 times sensitivity, and you can see now it's flying up very nicely. There we go, it's way up in the air. So I'm going to set another key by pressing the button. And again, you can also set a key by pressing I for insert key on the keyboard. And if we scrub the timeline there, you can see there's our movement back and forth. Brilliant. Now, I want to set my next key, so I'm going to move the timeline on again. But it's really far away from me, and I can't really see what's happening. Now, I could use my WASD or your controllers in VR if you wanted to move up to the object, but that might take a long time. So instead I can select my object and go frame selected, and it brings me straight to it. And that's really handy, you can get there very quickly. So nice, we're up here and this is where it is. So we're going to move the helicopter again. So this time I just grab the handle, move it over, I'm going to set another key. And then let's see, I'm going to just do a very simple example. Let's move it again. I'm going to move it like this, and I'm going to rotate it. It's going to turn around and come back. And then we set a key. Now, when you're using the gizmo, you might accidentally make a mistake and go, oh no, what did I do? Don't worry about it. You can always reset. This button here resets the gizmo, and you can see it's gone back to its previous position. So don't panic and don't worry. You can reset your position if you're using the gizmo, and there's always have the option of undo as well to help you if you ever get stuck. So I'm happy with that position there. So let's have a look at our animation so far, see how it does. I'm going to just move over a bit and look down. There it is underneath us. I'm going to press play. And oh no, that's much too slow. Yeah, that's people might fall asleep in that. I think much too slow altogether. So let's see if we can edit that. The position I think is okay. I'm happy with the position, the way it's moving. But I want it to go faster. So this is where we can use our dope sheet. Now each of these dots you can move individually, or if you use the dot at the very top, you can move the key all at once. You can move all of the keys together. I usually just use the top dot to move all the keys together. Now it's taking much too long to get there, so let's maybe move this one closer. And the same for this one. And the same for this one. Let's have a look now. This should be a lot faster. Yeah, that's better. I think that's a good speed. Great. Okay, so we have our animation. Now we want it to come back again. And if we wanted to come back to the exact same place that it started, we could just position it and try and kind of get it by eye. But we've got the information here, so we might as well copy and paste it. So I'm going to select this key, and I'm going to go copy, and then I move the timeline to where I want to paste it, and I'll go paste. There we go. So let's have a look. That brings our helicopter. Now unfortunately it did rotate, so let's fix that. As well as that, if you want to edit a key that's already there, you need to move the timeline to the key. But trying to do it by eye, just dragging it, it's never going to work. So that's why we have the jump forward and back to the key. So let's jump to the key, and now we know the timeline is perfectly on top of that key, and we can reposition it and edit it the way we want. So I'm going to rotate that around, and then I'm going to set the key. So there we go. We edited that key, and that's much better. So it's doing the movement we want. And then I wanted to make it go back down to the ground. And this time I don't mind it turning around, because a helicopter might really do that. So I'm going to select the first key. I'm going to go copy and paste. And there we go. It's down on the ground again. So we've completed our animation. I'm going to go back to the timeline and have a look. I'm actually going to go to the start, and I'm going to frame my object again so it'll teleport me down. And I'm just going to have a look at it from here. Yeah, that looks good. I'm happy with that. That's a pretty cool helicopter tour. Now, the way it works at the moment is, if we went and tried this experience out, it would just play and go. It would start flying at the 1 minute mark, but the user wouldn't have control over it. So I think we can do a bit better. Why don't we add a button to the helicopter to start the animation? Okay, so we're going to do that by using a loop. So what we're going to do, we're going to decide that the first minute, it's just going to stay in the first minute here until you tell it you want to jump to the 1 minute mark and start playing the animation. And this is where we're going to use the skip to IFX. So I'm going to go to about 50 seconds here. I'll get rid of that search. and I'm going to use the skip to. You can see it's the very first one there because it's so useful. Okay, so what the skip to does is when this playhead hits the skip to, it's going to tell the playhead to jump to whatever time we tell it to. So I'm going to tell it to jump to the 1 second mark. Let's test that out, see if that works. There you go. So what we've done, we've created an infinite loop really. So it's going to keep going just for that 1 minute part, and we're never going to see the animation because it'll just keep looping forever. So we need to give the users a way to be able to jump out of the loop and see the animation. So we can do that with a trigger button. Let's have a look here. Okay, we're gonna put a button on the dashboard here, and that's gonna let the user start the animation. So if we have a look under trigger, so triggers are the interactions that we can add, and you can trigger things by clicking on them like a button, and you can see there's lots of different useful buttons there. And I'm just going to choose this nice white one. Let's see, and I'll just roughly position it. Yep, I'm happy with that. That's good. And I'm going to go into my options here by clicking on the cog. I'm going to call this the start button. There we go. And save that effect. Now the playhead has lots of different uses. It also works as a snap. So you can see I've moved the playhead back to the start and my object snaps to it. Now the way the trigger buttons work, and you can see it's a different color. So all of our trigger buttons are colored green, our IFX are colored blue, and so forth. You can see the different icon colors there. What happens is if we go to the cog, when the user presses this button, it will do whatever we tell it to in this section here. So I'm going to tell it to, when the button is pressed, I want to add another skip to. And I'm going to go back in again. And this time I'm going to tell it to skip to the point on the timeline where the animation plays. And if I remember, that was at the 1 minute mark. So there we go. So let's play this and let's click on it and see what happens. There we go. The animation started playing. And as well as that, you can see because the button, my trigger button, only exists up to this point, when the animation starts, you can't see the trigger anymore, and that's good because you wouldn't want to be able to keep triggering it. Brilliant. So there's only one thing left to do. We can add a sound effect. Let's have a look. Let's try helicopter again. There we go. Nice helicopter sound effect. And we might want to line the helicopter sound effect up with the start of the movement. So I can select my helicopter and jump to the first key. And now I know that my playhead will snap for me. So I'm going to move the audio and snap to the right spot. And if we look in the settings here, we can see it's got the loop is turned on, which is good, so it'll keep making the noise. And I'm going to get it to stop when the helicopter lands. So again, I'm going to jump to the key. I'm going to drag the handle and it will snap there. So there we go. I think there's only one thing left to do now, because if we play this sequence, the nice thing about it is the user gets to press the start button, the animation would start, and then it would just end, and that would be the end of the experience. We probably want it to keep looping so that the user can decide to press the button again. So I'm going to put in, after all the experience is done, I'm going to put in one last skip to. And this one is going to bring us right back to the start. Great. So let's go and save. We're going to click on the disk. I'm going to call this one, I'm going to edit it and call Liberty Tour. I actually already named it there. So that's save. And let's leave now and go and try it out.
With some additional keyframes and audio, you can expand the tour, as seen here. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we look forward to seeing what you build using our editor tools.
She arrived in 350 pieces and was put together here. She was finished in 1886. That makes her over 135 years old. She is 305 feet tall. That's like a 22-story building. Her face is 8 feet long. Her arm is 42 feet long.